All right, welcome everyone. This is a Viper Professional Training and Support webinar. Today's date is November 11th, 2019, and this is a Monday night webinar. And the title of tonight's webinar is You Can See the Right Trade in Advance. And as everyone knows, it's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar. Other webinars we have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? We are going to get started here. By the way, these webinars, when we have these, keep in mind that even though you don't have a microphone, you do have a chat box. So be sure and, type in any questions that you have. Don't be afraid of any questions. Don't feel like there'll be, maybe a newbie type question, because this is not what we're about. I've been in trading rooms before, and believe me, if you even asked a question that they thought was, not the brightest thing they'd ever heard, they'd chew you out in front of everybody. We don't do that. Okay, we're all about teaching people, and we literally start from scratch with a lot of people. I mean, I've helped people before that didn't know what a short trade was. Okay, so that's what we're all about. We're all about teaching everybody. Now, on your screen, you should be able to see a nice chart. Now, this is, we've talked about this lots of times, but this is really important so that you can see the right trade in advance. Okay. Because when I look at a chart like this, and like this here, and like this here, I see particular areas where you can definitely take a trade. Well, you're seeing a chart now. You're actually seeing the lightning. I can see my cursor going around on it. Is that right? Yeah, it should be going around on it. If it's not, let me just unpause it, and I'll bring it back up. You see the lightning 3 chart right now? Yes, okay, good. All right, so what you need to get in the habit of realizing, that there are 3 trends on your chart, and keep in mind that you can trade, even the smallest trend or the secondary trend or even the lightning 3 trend, and those are going to happen before these charts actually change colors and things. For instance, if you had seen this in real time and you saw this come down and make a higher low, and this was stair-stepping up like the little 4-range chart does, couldn't you box it in and take a trade and get that trade right there? And the answer is absolutely yes. But we look at it on even a larger scale. We look at the lightning 3, we look at lightning 1, and we look at lightning 2. Now, I tried to draw these charts as close to the same as I possibly could, okay, so that a person could see that, this is actually an uptrend. I didn't draw a downtrend. I need to actually draw one of those and actually put up a chart on the website, under member login area. Okay, let's see about the big C. I'll trade this AM. If I missed the entry you took, where in the trade could I get it later? Miss you on your question. We'll go over that, but there's times you can't get it. You've got to actually take a chance and just, grab it and then put a, nice tight stop on it. But you got to have at least, a bar or so back, something that you can actually see that they're trying to retrace, but you can't just sit there, like a deer in the headlights either and let an entire trade like that go, like, oh my gosh, 80 ticks. That was a killer trade. Okay, and see, gold did the same thing. Did y'all notice that on gold? Gold did the exact same thing except the opposite side of it. And it had some retracements, but, by about 9 o'clock, it pretty much just cratered. Yeah, you can use lightning 1 even to give an example. See, here's lightning 1 right here. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on this chart. I'm looking at the little deal and I don't see it, so maybe you can't. But let me get a drawing tool on here and show you something. We'll do a little yellow here. And, if let's say that you were seeing this, starting to retrace, it's kind of breaking this, it's kind of breaking here even, but see, it's barely breaking this right over here, this area right here. See where it just barely breaks that area, and then it starts stair-stepping up again. So the whole thing about trading is you got to be ready to take that trade when it starts, stair-stepping back up. When did this one start stair-stepping back up? You had a thrust, retrace, thrust, identified swing right here. Okay, it thrusted up again, but could you have actually taken this trade when you got a higher low and this did a little consolidation patch in this little nook right here? And that's exactly what we teach. Okay, so what it really boils down to is there's times when you don't have to care, what color the charts are and stuff. Because I want to show you something, the way I traded this morning, my wife and I, when we get up and everything. I'll show you a little chart here. Let's see. Now, does anybody have any questions before I go on? Because Lightning 1, 2, and 3 we explain in some other webinars, but they're really important. Okay, the way we trade this entire system is based on Lightning 1, 2, and 3. All right, now let's look at this chart. Don't look at yours. Don't cheat. I just want you to see something here. Okay. Now, when I see this right here, I see a low, I see a high, higher low, barely higher high, don't count. Higher low, higher high, that one pretty much counts. So see, they pretty much held it on this little pullback too. See how they just barely touched it? Okay, and then you get a high, a low, barely higher high, don't count it. A higher low, because it is a higher low, it took out the swing, so I do count this one. So let me ask you a question. If you were actually looking at markets and you want to take some trades, could you actually take this trade when it broke like 66.10? You can't see my cursor? That's strange. Just a second. Just a second. I'm going to pause it, start it again, pause it, and start it again. And now let me see if you can see my cursor. I still don't see my cursor. What is going on? That's strange. It's moving it, but there's no cursor there. At least I'm not seeing a cursor on the deal. Are y'all not seeing the cursor either? You can see the cursor now? Okay. Good. Okay. Well, what's weird is on my little window, it's not showing it. I've got a little window that shows my charts also. A cyan pointer, exactly. And it's black around the edges of it, so you're just seeing the cyan part of it in the middle. Okay? But can you see here that you could actually, for instance, if you were just looking at this chart without our indicators or anything on here, could you clearly see that Lightning 2 was broken right across here? So if you were looking at this in real time, could you short this thinking you might get down to here or lower? Or maybe you could say, you know what? I could actually draw a trend line and it's already breaking it. So could I have shorted the trend line or at least this line here? And the answer is yes, because you're actually, you're not going against the trend when you do that, because you're actually taking the little trend instead of the big trend. Everybody see that? Okay. Again, that's really important, because to give you an example right here, when I got up this morning, I saw this. Okay. This was actually basically, to where oil had come down, made a fresh low, made a high, made a higher low, made a little higher high. So is that actually, in a way, kind of trying to break up? And it actually is, right? Yeah. So with Lightning 2, this is actually breaking up. And then I look to the left to trade the right. If this was to decide to go up and roll over, you could get out of it real quickly, right? But where is this trade, for all intents and purposes, heading? It's already to here. You see, it's almost there at 47. Then you got 56. Then you got 75. And then you got 89. Remember those numbers this morning that we talked about? So if you saw a trade like this and it's starting to stair step up, could you actually get in the trade when it takes out the swing and then just don't let it go very far into this swing at all? In other words, if it decided to do this instead and pull back and didn't go ahead and head back up, then you would want to get out of it real quick. Let's see, David says, what determines or what do they mean the size and color of the dots. Well, okay, let me explain that. The dots that you're seeing here are based on Lightning 3 and 4. Okay, Lightning 3 is simply, when you go to your indicators, Lightning 3 is a 4-range chart with 15 swing strength. We've used this for years, and it works really, really, really well. Okay, now that doesn't mean it takes 15 bars to get a swing. It just means that it's 15 swing strength, and there's an algorithm in it that it goes beyond a certain point, and you get like higher lows and things like that. There's algorithms in it that tell it when to draw that, and it's really good and good and accurate on it. But you don't use it to get in the trade because it's going to draw later, but you use it more to get, well, for instance, let's say you're looking at this chart and you get up in the morning, okay, and you've seen this. All right, now right at that time, this is pretty much the range it's in, right? So if it broke this, wouldn't you think it would probably break down? Because that's actually a high, a low, a little ABC type, or even ABCDE or ABC. You see what I mean? Anytime they barely identify a swing like we talk about, they'll always take it out just by a couple of ticks. That's just the nature of it. Okay, so that's actually high, low, higher, high. That's like an ABC. Okay, so if that's the case and they take this out, then they're actually breaking down a little bit on what we call Lightning 2. If they break this, they're actually breaking down on Lightning 3. So for instance, when I'm trading and I see something like this, basically what I do is I look for, let me get my little arrow here. I think that's the arrow, isn't it? Yeah. I look for a little breakdown and a pullback, but you don't always get, a breakdown and a pullback first. Sometimes they just break. Just like in the case of the long today. Remember that long I called on oil where Charles even got in late, but I called it when it thrust up a little bit and came right back and sat on top of our box. That's what you like. That's the type of trade that will never harm you. Okay, let's see how to create this chart, Shiva. Well, on the website, you've got a template under the members login that you can actually get this particular chart. It's called the webinar chart. So size of dots doesn't mean size of lightning, David. Okay, let me finish explaining because I was trying to explain that to you and I got off on a rabbit trail. Lightning 3 is always the yellow number and the green number. Lightning 4 is navy blue and white, but on the webinar chart we use a little bit lighter blue, but it's still the same thing. It's blue and white. Okay, so now that particular one is based on a 12-range chart. We don't really look at that except at the larger swings, okay, where you really want to see, for instance, if you get a good short and it comes down really close to like a Lightning 4, gets a higher low and bounces, you're going to count on the fact they're going to probably head on up again, okay? But, when you draw on your charts, for instance, like if you saw this in real time right here, and this was breaking up, could you actually, even take a trade like this when it actually, I don't know exactly how this drew. Let's see if we can draw Lightning 1. Let's see if Lightning 1 will draw. It's a little bit different. Okay, so you have a low, so you have a high, low, lower, low, right? But then you have a higher high right here. Okay, so this is actually starting to kind of trend to the upside, isn't it? Because you have a low, high, higher low, higher high. Now, that doesn't mean that you're changing trends, but it still doesn't mean that you can't take some trades, for instance, that, if you decide and you draw on your charts and you say, okay, looking to the left to trade the right, it's already at 47. Is it trying to go to 56? That'd give me 9 more ticks. Is it trying to go to 75? That'd give me a few more. Okay. Well, I actually took this trade this morning on Linda's account, and this little trade turned out to be quite a nice little trade. And when I was looking at it, I actually got up when this thing was up a little bit higher, and you'll notice mid-band. Now, let me show you mid-band on your chart so you can see some really good trades also. Let's see, David, are there different settings depending on the instrument? No. No. No, the one thing that we do is we keep the charts exactly the same. I don't believe in going and adding a bunch of indicators to my chart because I can read them just like a book. And I've taught myself to do that, and that's what I'm here, teaching right now, is so people can actually see that. So let's go to a chart that has the midband on it next. All right, we'll just go to that. Now, this is the exact same chart that we're just now looking at. Okay, so we drew those lines. Remember, we had our little lightning. Let's draw it. Everybody see that? Same lightning. And then over here, we've got lightning. Let's draw it, see where it's going. Or maybe from here. Yep. All right. So now we can see on this chart what's happening. We had a mid-band trade, right? All right. But it's not taking out these highs. So if you were looking at this chart in real time, could you say, you know what? If they take this out, they're not heading down anymore. But what if they barely take it out and bounce? Okay. David, if you don't have the lightning numbers on your chart, you'll need that template. I can even Skype that to you. But you're a member. You just go to our website at vipertradingsystems.com and go to your member area and get the little template that we've got on the site. Now, this template is not on the site right here. Okay. The webinar one is with the black, but I just did this one and just simply added the power trend. Okay. But let's go a little bit further because I want everybody to see that you can definitely, tell what's going on charts. And, keep in mind that, well, let's just draw it from up here. Let's just draw it from up here. All right. So this is what happened. This came down. So you've got a little action heading down. But when did this start heading back up? Anybody? Well, it thrust up and took out this swing right here. And it got a higher low, but you think, no, I'm not going to go long there yet. And you're right to do that too, because we like to look more around mid-band. Okay. But what if this was to hover around mid-band and you boxed it, and instead of going short, it went long and you could get up to this 75. And that could happen, right? So that's the same thing we did. Remember on gold this morning where I called a trade on gold and we actually got like maybe a 6 or 7 tick trade, and then it was right back in your face. It scratched. But if you looked later on gold, you'll notice that gold went up like a house afire. I mean, it went through mid-band. And if you had not taken the trade I called on gold earlier, you would have missed that entire run because it went like crazy. Okay? So let's go ahead and go on with this and see what's happening. Let's go to this real quick too. I want to show this chart. Now, notice that I don't have any prices on this chart, but they're really here anyway. But does everybody see some trades on this chart right here that you can absolutely take? There's a phantom trade right here, right in this area right here, right? Is this actually a phantom trade that you could take, to be able to see what's really going on in your charts? Just absolutely look for these phantom trades. Look for mid-band trades when they roll over. You can tell this is a mid-band trade. It rolled all the way down to here. Okay. How do you draw the lightning lines, Dan? The lightning lines are done with what we call hotkeys in NinjaTrader. And the hotkeys are, if you go to your lightning, you'll see your hotkey is Alt for lightning 1, lightning 2 is Shift, 3 is Control, and 4 is Backspace. And all you have to do is hold those hotkeys down and then left click your mouse on a swing. So for instance, if I wanted to draw lightning 3, I'd hold the control key down. And see, there's lightning 3 on that chart. Let's draw it from a little higher so we can see it. There's lightning 3 right there. Okay. Now let's take it off. You just do the opposite. You just hold the hotkey and left click again. Okay. And let's draw like lightning 4 even on here. Lightning 4 would be based on your blues and your whites. So if I do my backspace, hold it down and left click, that's your lightning 4. Now that one you're not as concerned about because that's huge moves. Those are 12 range charts. Okay. Now, if you were trying to take a lightning 4 trade to the long side, you'd have to break 75, wouldn't you? And you would probably want to come back and kiss it and take off. But keep in mind that there's lightning 4 on the chart, there's lightning 3, and there's lightning 2 and lightning 1. Okay, so what I'm asking here, and we talk about this kind of trade all the time, okay, a mid-band trade can be taken either direction, especially if you're starting to break these swings on the left. Okay, because and anytime they go to mid-band, they're going to break some of these smaller swings on the left. There's no question about that. But for instance, if you saw this in real time, and let's say this comes up here and starts hovering around here, and you look to the left and you say, you know what? I got resistance right there at 47. Well, what if it took that resistance out? Would it be heading down anymore? Or would it be heading up? See? Now, if it barely takes it and you go long and then it goes right back below that support, take it off the table. What I'm talking about is a little bit more aggressive trades if you want to really see the right trade in advance and get some of these 10 tickers that we, talk about all the time. Okay. Now let's go to the actual chart and let's see what's going on. Okay, we'll go to both of those. Bear with me a second. If anybody has any questions at all about any of the trade, like phantoms or something like that, be sure and holler it out because I'll be happy to help. All right, here's our chart right here. All right. Now looking to the left to trade the right, I'm seeing resistance. That was the same chart just a minute ago. So there's resistance right there. There's resistance right across here at 56. And then there's resistance at 75. Okay, that's how we draw on charts right there. To use the top or the bottom of the previous swing PW, well, keep in mind that if you're good enough to get into a trade when you get the higher low to begin with, you could actually literally be on what we would call a scalp type trade as soon as it even starts getting a higher low and you box it. But that's a risky trade because obviously this is heading down, not up at the time. Okay, but let's fast forward and see what actually happens here. I got it going about 100 times, so it'll be fairly quick. All right, now does anybody see, like right here, what's kind of going on? Okay, notice that, well, for instance, if you would have boxed in at mid-band and tried to get a quick phantom type trade, you can get 7, 8 ticks on something like that, something like this one here. When you take a phantom trade like this short, that doesn't mean somebody else hasn't already taken the long for 10 ticks. Same way here. And you could do the same thing here. Okay. And could you actually say, you know what, if this decides to break down, they're pretty much going to have to take this out. But if they break up and looking to the left to trade the right, what if they take out 56? Could you box it both ways? And you actually can. We do that all the time. Let's see, I see you drawing lines, and sometimes you draw them from the bottoms and sometimes the tops. Does this have something to do with current direction? Well, yeah, when you're actually short, you're looking at these lines on the left that are actually resistance lines. But once they take them out, what do they become? They become support lines, right? And you can definitely, draw on your charts like this. And this little trade right here, to give an example, if you were thinking that this was going to break up and go to phantom, could you take this trade long? Even though this background is red and the midband is red. And probably somebody said, well, yeah, in hindsight you could because that did go up and I got it to 75 this morning. But why did I take it there instead of looking at short? Anybody? Why was I looking more at, boxing it either direction? Well, look at your lightning. Thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace, thrust. It's heading up. It's not heading down. It's heading up on lightning 2. It's heading up on lightning 1. Isn't it? So, if this was to actually head down, I would expect it to actually take out this swing. But what if it breaks this swing to the upside with a higher low? Okay, so in other words, if it doesn't break for me a short, what if it breaks this as it gets a higher low and then takes this out? And then I look to the left to trade the right, and all I see is 56 and I see 75. Okay? What you've got to get to the point of is realizing that when we do the trends on the chart, okay, we're looking at more the overall trend. It does not mean that we can't take some trades against these trends simply because they work out and work out quite well. Okay? And otherwise, you'll be missing out on some of the greatest trades that ever hit on the chart. Let me just show you something here. This little trade right here, if you simply put Object Trader on your chart, I got it in replay mode, and you were to go region and say, you know what, if this actually, I'm not going to just take this if it just happens to break down a little bit, because I'd still be getting higher low, wouldn't I? Okay. Now, if this gets a high and then rolls over, this may be my new swing. We don't know that yet, though. Okay. So what if we said, you know what, if it actually does something like this, we want to just try to get 10 ticks and maybe a runner. So could you do that? Okay. Because, see, I see sometimes where people will go ahead, you know, like if this bar closes down, they'll go ahead and short it. You can't do that because they may go sideways with this thing with 15 bars. You never know. I mean, they might go a bar down, a bar up, a bar down, a bar up, bar down, bar up, and just go sideways for a while, and they'll drive you nuts. Now, the way this is looking right now, you might think, hey, you know what, if it breaks this support right here. Now, normally I won't draw a box this tight on a short when I see this heading up, okay? But I might go ahead and box it something like that. So you know what? If this does decide to break this with at least a close of a bar or a touch below that little swing it's trying to make, I'll take it either direction. Everybody see that? Okay. Now, when we took that gold trade, and I'm gonna try to show you that because I've got a gold chart up also. You saw it just a few minutes ago. And I'll show you how to get out of that trade that didn't work out, okay? But it didn't cost us either. The beauty of it is that you don't feel heat. You're not going to get creamed on trades. But why would you be shorting a stair-stepping lightning? Because isn't this actually the same thing? Well, let me kill this for just a second. I'll get rid of these drawing that I did on this. Bear with me a second. Lightning, where are you at? I've got it on my desktop, I know, so I've got a blue screen though, so let me find Lightning real quick. Where are you at, Lightning? There it is, there it is. All right. Isn't that exactly what we're seeing right now? Isn't that a little uptrend as it's starting to head up instead of down? But you've always got to be ready, you know, and the only way you're going to get creamed on a trade is if they slap it. And I've said that a lot of times because if they slap it and you're on the wrong side of a trade, you could get hurt a little bit. Okay, let me get that chart back up just a second. All right. So let's say, for instance, that we took this trade right here. Okay, if it decides to break this little swing, and it's also, you can clearly see it's right across here too. See it? Thrust, retrace. That's the swing right there on the left. So if it breaks it, that's no longer resistance. Okay, we've already missed it from way down here, but that was risky. When they get around this mid band, that's not quite as risky, you know, for like a box both ways if you're careful. Okay, now to me, on this particular chart, I don't really like this short until they start taking that trend line out right there. See it? Little thrust retrace. So, you know, you might not want to short this until it decides to break the trend line and start heading down. Now, would I reverse this if this happened to pop up and come back in? No. I would actually only go the other direction if it pops out of here, comes back in here, dings around, and then takes this out. Because if you just reverse one, they're going to nail you. You know, I've done it even in replay mode and stuff like that, and believe me, they'll get you. Okay, let's real quick though. Let's just see if while somebody else is watching this and thinking, is this really going to head up or whatever? Could you actually be ready to take the trade if you got up trading in the morning and you said, you know what, I see a trade. If it breaks it, you know, could you actually get in the trade? It looks like it might. See, it's just right there at resistance. That's only one tick. Kind of faked it, right? Kind of faked it so far. But if it pops up 2 ticks above that, and by the way, when it pops back in there like that, what if you wanted to do 1 tick above it? You can. And see, there you are. You're in the trade as of right now because it did tick above it. And what you'd have to do though, okay, let's say that I'm in this trade and I say, you know what, I'm not going to let it go below that swing right there. And that's still risking 5 ticks. And I'd put it on exit on close. Okay. Now, this little trade, where would your target be? Well, if you look to the left to trade the right, you got 75. And if you look to the left to trade the right, you've got 75 again. So that's a double. And then you've got 56. So if it doesn't take out 56, we're not really heading up. Okay. So now keep in mind one other thing that you're seeing on this too is that this has actually got a green stealth also. See this green stealth right here? This is pretty much telling you that they're not only heading up, but when you get a green stealth, that's actually some momentum on that move. Okay? Because this only paints when it's at a certain, well, for lack of better terms, angle. Okay, could we actually go, we didn't quite get our target just yet. Looks like we did get one, right? And did that turn out to be a decent little trade? Well, you're in one right now, and keep in mind that if this was to come all the way back to break even, I'd still be up $100. And will it probably come back a little bit? They usually do, because they'll thrust up, they'll retrace, they'll thrust up, they'll retrace. Is that actually like a little phantom trade if somebody happened to have shorted line 7? And the answer is yes. So could you actually be, I'm long on this, but could you have shorted line 7 for a quick pop down? Yes. Okay, because that is a true phantom trade right there. I don't normally take this one because it's already got 1, 2, and that's the third one. And you've heard the old saying, third time's a charm. They don't usually go third phantoms very often. Okay, so we got us a nice little trade, right? So let's see if we can protect it even a little bit more. Not yet. We got to let it play around with this little, where it's trying to make a lower, a lower low. And if it pops up, we'll put our stop right up underneath it like that. See there? And if it takes us, it takes us, and it might just get us right here. We'll see. Didn't. See how they wick those? We'll put our stop like right along in there. And we'll try to get to 75. And this trade right here this morning was literally all that Linda actually wanted. And it turned out that it didn't do too shabby to begin with. Okay. But everybody see how you can see the right trade in advance? And did this actually change trends at all? Not really, because when this hit 75, this pulled back. But let me show you something here real quick. If you're a gutsy trader and you see a high, a low, a higher high, is this actually right here, to where this could actually go the other direction if it broke it? And the answer is yes, on what we call lightning 1. Okay? Because see, right now it's stair-stepping up, but that is a swing, just like lightning 3. You got a trend line drawn also. What if it breaks that trend line? Could you actually head down? You notice that we opened the trading room this morning and I had a line drawn at 56. And this is, we're going over a webinar to go over what was really on the charts at the time. But can you clearly see that even on the larger move, thrust, retrace, big old ABC. If you broke 56, would this be heading up or down? You say, well, wait a minute, your midband's right here. Yeah, but on the left side of the chart, you got a high, a low, like an ABC. So if it breaks 56, would it be heading down? And the answer is yes. They're harder to take, but if you take them, you can't let them go against you. See how that broke that trend line? Could you actually do something like that and go ahead and short that when it actually rolls over like that and put your stop just right above here? You could, but you got to be careful because this is actually still an uptrend so far. Okay, now that's not the way I would do it. Let me show you how I would do it. I would actually, if I was going to short this right here, I would draw like a trend line or a box. You know, for instance, a little swing right across there. If it broke that swing, would this be heading down? There's support right here on the left. There's a little stealth. They're trying to go up, but they're not going up. You've already got your coin. We gave some of it up, unfortunately, because that trade that I pulled that I didn't want to do. But let's just see. And also watch your power meters too. You'll notice that if a power meter goes red, you're stair stepping down in Lightning 1. Okay, see that went red right there. Now, could that actually be, you know, a decent little trade? And again, the answer is yes. Okay, the answer is absolutely yes on that. And by the way, when you get to a point where you're getting some good coin, by the way, I'd protect my trade on that one with that resistance right there. And I'd probably move that out of the way. Now, do you remember this trade this morning? We actually called this trade this morning when it broke the mid band. Does anybody remember it? Had a little box drawn on it. Are the power meters working while in replay? Yes, they should work in replay. Okay. Now, remember this little trade that we took in the room this morning? Because we boxed this in. Matter of fact, our box looked just like this right here. And we actually shorted this the first thing this morning. But I told everybody, protect your coin at Phantom. Okay. Because Phantoms, one thing I can tell you about oil, I've been watching it for years now. And when they get enough oomph to get this midband to change colors, unless it's straight across. Now keep in mind, if it's straight across, you got to be careful with Phantom trade. But when it ratchets up a little bit like that, see where it's kind of crooking up, that's actually a decent Phantom trade when they do that. Now I didn't trust this one this morning as much simply because it dinged around here for like 30 minutes. It was ridiculous. But if you're going to take a Phantom type trade on oil, you pretty much have to wait for it to touch right in this little sweet spot right here. Let's see, you missed the short but took the long Phantom, Kurt. Yeah, I heard you call it out this morning in the room. Now, but can you take that short even way up here at under this swing or this swing for sure? Now, this one was not identified on the swing. See the high, the low, same high? That's not identified on that swing, but this one is right here. So could you take that 56 short? And the answer is yes. Okay. Anybody have any questions on this so far? Because the one thing you're going to find out, if you'll learn some really good trades, like a lot of our people are learning, Phantom trades, mid-band trades, boxing in, and again, keep in mind that mid-band trades, we will go against the trend. John, that's a good question. John says, he said, wow, can you identify what's called a Phantom area? All right, I'll show it to you. Let's just kill this. We don't care. Not real money. So all we're doing is replay. But I could show you real money on Linda's account today, and it got up there nicely because I called that trade on oil after it went up. Everybody remembers it. It popped up, pulled back. I got it at 48, called it at about 52. Remember it? Okay. But what a Phantom trade is, John, and anybody else in the room, and take this one to the bank because it works really, really well. Okay. First off, you have to have what we call an extreme to an extreme. So you go from red or any color of the midband that's a short color to a long color, trending up. Lime green simply means trending up. Blue means that it's breaking a session high, and yellow means it's sideways. And on the short side, it's magenta is a downtrend, red is session low, and rose color, which happens sometimes too, is sideways. See, that got a little sideways right there, just for a little bit on that rose color there. You can see it right there. That usually means that they're pretty much getting ready to change trends. Okay? But what you're looking for in a phantom trade, though, is you're simply looking for changing the direction of the from short to long, and then you're looking for this little sweet spot between line 2 and line 1. Okay? That's a deep retracement is what that is, and phantoms work out really well. So what you're doing is you're actually drawing a little box, say, in your mind or whatever, and you know that if it comes down into that little box at any time and see if it steps up, you just keep moving it, because that's still a phantom area. And if it stair steps up again, you keep moving it. And it stair steps up again, you keep moving it. Doesn't mean these aren't trades here, by the way. We're talking about phantoms only. Phantom, 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 and where's your phantom? Right there. Okay, that's called a phantom trade right there. Okay, so what you're looking for when this happens, now keep in mind, you didn't miss all this either. Don't get me wrong when just we're looking at phantom trade and going, gosh, you just left 100 ticks on the table. No, we still take this trade, we take this trade, we take this trade. Okay, you can even take some of these others through here. I'm going to show everybody, and I've showed this quite a few times, but if you're going to chase a trade, at least let it make a little box, little box, little box. Okay, and you got to be careful when you're really chasing them, because when you make these little boxes, they'll pull back on you. Okay, but if they don't pull back very much, or they break them and never even come back against you, that's not a bad trade when it does that. You can still take that trade even later. I'll show you that on oil from earlier here in just a few minutes. But John, on your question, the phantom trade, what you're actually looking for is this is all set up in bands. There's 4 bands below mid-band, 4 bands above mid-band, and it starts with line 0. Line 0, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, each one of these, now always keep in mind that the red line is line 2, that's your phantom area on a long, and your line 6 is your phantom area on a short, but not when it's got a mid-band that's this color. This is not a short area up here this is not a phantom. A phantom is, like on this particular trade, no, that didn't quite do phantom. See if I can find a phantom. Not a lot of phantoms on the short side. Here's one right here. Line 7 did probably 7 or 8 ticks. That's mid-band, that's mid-band. That's close to a phantom, but not quite. Here's a phantom right here, but see this one right here? That was a line 6 down to mid-band. That's a phantom to the short side. And then when it changes trends like that, this is actually a phantom to the upside. But keep in mind that, again, I said when they flatline like this one barely dipped up, but not much. I like it when it at least does a little crook, because if it doesn't do a little pop up, these are fakes. The ellipses are support and resistance mark on your question, and they look at these areas, just basically where you can, box in and get these rollovers. Okay, now keep in mind when you go to a phantom, let's go back over here to this phantom that was right here. All right, see if you box this in. A lot of our people like to take a line 1 phantom. They'll do 1 contract. Then if it breaks line 2, they might even do 2, and they put their stop under the swing. And if it's going to head up, you've got to get a higher low. You don't take the bottom of the box out. And then it starts stair stepping up. Okay, that's a good phantom trade. And you want to take it off the table when it gets up to the previous swing. If it takes it out like it did over here, then you just take it out again when it comes back through, like 37. If it broke it and comes back through it, you can get out of it. Okay, there's a mid-band trade too. We'll do another webinar here pretty shortly on, more the mid-band type trades and stuff like that too. Let's go back over here though to the end. Does everybody remember this trade? This is actually in the room time. Okay, now if you were looking at this chart, can you tell where to get in this trade? Anybody? Lightning is clearly heading down. You've got a swing right here. And let's just watch it and let's just see. Remember where we talked about this barely wicked this and we stayed in our short? Or actually we got back in it again, remember, from the open of the market? We took this little trade, we took this little trade. But notice that this hit this phantom down here. Now, if you actually box this, where you just simply take the trade above line 2 on a phantom line 1 type trade, then you don't let it go back into the shadows, what I don't normally do. I won't go all the way with the stop to line 0. It's too much loss. Because what if this was to crater down? And it could. But what if this was to turn green and you were to just simply take a trade if it did, or you box this in? And some of our people did box this in this morning. But let's watch it and see, when did it actually start stair-stepping back up? Because there's plenty of time to get in trades. See, there still was not an uptrend yet. And watch it. See, it came back down to it again. And you can clearly see that if they get a higher low here and take this out, they're heading up. What if they take this out right across here? Would they be heading up? Very possibly, right? So let's watch this. Watch your lightning. See your lightning turn green. It's telling you that it's trying to head up. Now, do you remember that little trade call that was called in the room this morning? Anybody? And when did this start stair-stepping back up? See the heading down, double bottoms, starts heading back up when it takes out that swing right there. Now, that's not when you get long, though. You got to either get it when it comes back down and makes a higher low here, or you just simply wait for it to break. And, the closer you can get to that mid-band, the better you are for a monster trade. Okay, because this could have dinged around, until it took out 48, it wasn't really heading up. Okay, by looking to the left to trade the right. High, low, lower high, lower low. Then it just did a double bottom and started stair-stepping back up. When it took out 48 and came back down below it and then went back up through it, that was when I got long this morning. I talked about 48. Now, what if you didn't go long there? Anybody see a little swing right there? Could you actually take that trade when it just touched that line right there that I had drawn in the room? We did, and we called that. And you think, well, how'd you know that wasn't heading, down again? Well, I mentioned that phantom was, intact to begin with when we were in that short from earlier. Now, by the way, if you don't want to go short at the open when we get these little boxes and stuff, you definitely don't have to, but don't go late if you're going to go in, because when I drew this box in the room this morning, we got those 10 ticks, and that's important to get those 10 ticks. Okay? 48 basically was just when this actually started taking out this little swing to the left. Looking left to trade the right, this was your identified swing on the left side of the chart. You see that? You see what I'm talking about, Lisa? See how you had a high, low, lower high, lower low. That's an identified swing. That's on the left side of the chart. Consider this as the left side of the chart until it starts getting a higher low and starts stair-stepping back up. So this is the left swing, okay? And until this left swing's taken out, you're not really looking to head up. Okay, your box was 56.45 top to bottom. Well, 45 is not bad when it took this out, you mean? Like right here? it was a little gutsy because you had resistance right there, but I was certainly looking at that then too. I got 48 this morning. But another thing that you've got to get in the habit of doing too, though, is you got to let a runner run. Always look to the left to trade the right. If you see a swing and you look to the left and you say, they've already hit that one twice, so could you try to go for 89 instead? Because they've already hit that, and more than likely third time they'll take it out. Sure. And we actually did do that in the room this morning. What's this little trade? Now, let me ask a question real quick. Where would you put your stop on this trade if you decided that you wanted to do it with lightning? Anybody? Well, if you didn't get in till right here where I called it, remember when we had this drawn right? Bear with me a second. Let me get that out of the way. We had this drawn right here like this. This was what was happening at the time. Looking to the left to trade the right, I took that 48 as it started going back through it. That was, a little premature, because what if it had decided to hit its head here and then rolled over? I would have gotten out of it. But the beautiful trade was when it popped up and pulled back and kissed right on top of that swing. Look to the left to trade the right, and it checked it exactly. And then that turned into a monster trade. Okay? Now, some people, when they're up pretty nice, now we weren't up this nicely at the time. If it depends on how many trades you took, obviously. But when you get a trade like this, the beauty of it is to let it run, because you get trades that run like this. And by the way, if you don't want to take 89, just move your target out of the way, but then put a nice tight stop on one of them, just in case this hits its head at 75. You can always put like a sniper. You could put a region, say something like that. Say what if this was to actually touch one tick under that bar right there? Could I take one off? And I could by just turning that region on. Because maybe I don't want to give a bunch of this up, but I'm willing to let it ride otherwise. Because see, if you think about this box as 8 ticks, I'm going to give up $160 anyway. Yeah, exactly. But see what you can get when something like that happens like this, and it just keeps going and going and going. Now, let's go over a scenario though. What if you weren't in this trade and you said, oh my goodness, I got to get a pullback at least into here. And what if it never does that? What do you think? Well, let's just say you weren't, and you said, you know what? If that bar closes up, I'm taking a chance on it, and I'm going to put a real tight stop on it with an exit on close. Could you do that? I don't know exactly where Charles got in, but he was actually waiting for a pullback, and you don't always get a pullback on these trades. What if you said, you know what, I'm willing to take a 50 tick hit by jumping in this thing because it's above 75. And what if you just jumped in it and said, you know what, I'm not going to give them any wiggle room, but I'm in it. Could you do that? Yes. Now, one other way that I recommend doing it, though, let me show you another way, because what you can do is wait for it to at least get a down candle. Let's just kill it. Let's just go ahead and let's see if we can get a down candle. Okay, there's a little down candle right there. Could you actually say, you know what, if this actually breaks this little swing right across here, I'm just going to go ahead and take that trade and take a chance on it. And see, a down candle at least is telling me that it might retrace a little bit first, and then I could move this box if it retraces where I want it. Everybody see what I mean there? But what if this was just to keep on trucking, and you're a deer in the headlights thinking, well, this thing's going to pull back. What if it doesn't pull back? What if it did just exactly what it did this morning and just went to the moon? Okay? Could you actually jump in a trade? What if you missed that one right there? Could you actually get ready to take it again when you box in a little box? Yes, because otherwise you're going to be missing out on some great trades that'll go to the moon like that. And does anybody remember where I called this trade out in the room this morning? We hit 34. I think everybody remembers that. I drew a line on the chart at 34, 35 area, remember? We had a line drawn right there. And notice where predictor said, whoa, look at that. That's going to hit its head there. Now your stop wouldn't be way down here, obviously, right? You're right up into there. See your little swing. Now, if you get to the point that you've got a great trade going, and let's say, for instance, it did decide to go ahead and blow through 35, but what if it didn't blow through 35? You don't have to give it all the way back to mid-band. You know, just watch the little zigzags, and you'll see it. See, it's kissing support right now. Okay, so if we get in on a single bar pullback on a break of top, then it stops you out. Then you try it again. Well, Jager, on your question, you know, the thing is, we like to, as much as possible, be retrace traders. But I also go by that, you know, little premise that my mommy didn't raise no fool either. Because, you know, when they're breaking, I mean, they broke support right here. And if I was already up like $900, would I take a chance on that trade with even a little deeper stop? Yes. Yeah, because Charles, you know, for instance, I don't know exactly where he got in, but, you know, I called it right here on that bar. Remember it? Right there in the room, in live, real time, real color and everything. It was called. Okay. So I bet you he got in when it broke 64. That's my guess. Because it had pulled back a little bit. He may have gotten in at mid-band. No, he didn't, because he didn't get this trade. He had to have actually probably gotten in either here, or he did take one of these little breaks like I called just a minute ago. Yeah. But what if you got up, you know, let's say this is 5 o'clock in the morning instead, and you weren't up, and this was like 4 o'clock in the morning, and this is 5 in the morning right here instead. So if I got up and I saw this happening in real time, and I said, you know what, this thing's gone like crazy, but what if it doesn't pull back to the mid-band? Or what if it doesn't pull back even to this right here? Can you box it when it's up this high? Yes. Just be careful with it. Now, if it's your first trade out of the gate, I wouldn't go drawing a box and saying, you know what, if this breaks this box, I'm going to give it all the way to mid-band. Not on your life, because if it broke this box and barely got you in and came all the way back to mid-band, you'd be down $500. What if you said, well, I'll use this stop right here? You know, so you got a little thrust, retrace, thrust. Well, that's still a lot to give back. So what if you just said, you know what, if it breaks that box, I'm not letting it go back against it. See, that's the smarter way to do it. Because even if you, let's say that you happen to get in when it breaks that little box. Let's say this is 4 o'clock in the morning and this is 5, and you just got up. Now, would I take this trade here and put my stop here? No. No, because that would cost me approximately $200 on 2 contracts. But what if it did this at, I didn't get up at 4 and I got up at 5, and it did that and just kept on trucking? Then yes, you can get in that trade. Okay? Because this actually went all the way to 34 this morning. And I think that's where some people miss out on some good trades, is because when they run like this, you know, they're afraid to get in it. Let me see if I've got gold, and we're almost out of time, but let me see if I've got gold from when it just went down like crazy, and then it started going up. And I'm going to show you where you can get in that trade. Let's go ahead and kill this. We don't care. Let's change this to gold. Now, by the way, don't ever change Object Trader to a different instrument while you're still in the trade. Okay? And matter of fact, I usually just go to a different chart, but since we're in a webinar, I'll do it. We'll go ahead and go to gold. All right. This was like 9:14 in the morning. Does anybody remember this trade here? Let's fast forward this, and I want to see if anybody can catch the trend change. I'm going to try to not go so fast that we can't see it. All right, remember that trade we called in the room? Right there? Short. Short. Everybody see that? Short trades all over the place, and you just got to take them, because I'm here to tell you that was monster. Okay? But what did we talk about mid-bands? Anybody? Could you box that? You know, here was resistance right here to the left. That's clearly breaking it. Could you actually take that trade when it broke that resistance? And what if you did? Let's just try one, for instance, okay? And what if it did break that and you said, you know what? I'm not going to let it come back to mid-band. I'm up quite nicely, so I'm going to put my stop at mid-band. All right? And then if it breaks this, like this little swing here and comes back and kisses support, add one. Could you do that? But then you say, well, what about a phantom trade? Well, this has got a phantom trade setting up. This is not really going to go long until it takes out 1453.30, but we buy mid bands lots of times. If they'll box at a mid band, you'll usually find that you'll get a good trade that will work out for a good 10 or 15 ticks. Now, not late like I got it. You'd want to buy it right down here. See how this was stair-stepping in lightning? Let me just draw it. See how down here this got a high, a low, and a higher high. So this was actually starting to break up right across here on lightning 1. And you look to the left and you say, well, you know what? They don't even have a swing till 1451.80. So could you take that trade even to the long side? And again, that's lightning 1. Could you take that? Yes. But you got to be careful, because this had been heading down a lot. But we would just be trying to make some coin on a retrace. But what if that retrace turned into an actual trend change? And what if you didn't take it down there, or maybe on a trend line? So you could even draw a trend line on this chart too. When they do this, where you get that higher low like that, you could draw a trend line right through there. And if you boxed that and went long, I wouldn't be against that at all. But what if this comes down and just clearly just tests like, well, it did already. See, it tested right here. It thrust up and pulled back. Okay. Now, what if you just literally missed this trade and you said, doggone it, I didn't box this in at mid-band. I should have. See, can you use OT to exit? You can. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you can. You want me to show you how to do that real quick? Let's just do it. We got one contract in. So we have a high, we have a low, we got a lower high so far. Let's draw a region. And let's see, if we get another high, which is fine, that'll be fine with me. But if it does take out this little swing, could you be ready to take off? Let's say you were in 2. Let's just go ahead and say we're in 2. What if you wanted to take out 1 if it happened to touch below that swing? Because see, you have a high, a low, a little lower high so far. If you were gutsy and you wanted to scale out, could you scale out? Yes. Yeah, because one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be riding 2 or 4 or something like that when they get these retraces all the way down to mid-band, because you don't know where it's going from here right now. This is a huge thrust up on gold. It clearly started changing trends when you started getting this stealth. You got at mid-band, we box in at mid-bands, we take those trades. Now, I'd love to actually get it to where we could change this mid-band based on lightning, and I may work on that, because to me, that is a trend change. That's literally just screaming to go up. Okay? And if you took that, you got a decent little trade, because it did go up quite a bit. Does anybody have any final questions on anything? What I tried to do tonight is show you that you can see the right trade in advance. You know, train your mind, though, to realize that if you can get leg 1 out of a trade, at least the giant part of leg 1, Then leg 2, when it pulls back, and then you go for leg 3, that's your sweet trade, is your leg 3. We talk about that all the time. Okay? And I hope this helps, because you can get in some of these trades a lot earlier if you'll just do that. See, now, to me, I'd even get out of that trade totally if it took out that swing right there. Let's see what it did. Let's just see what it did. Now see, it got a higher low. It's trying to check. There was a little check right there. Could you take that again right there at that line? Came close to it, so I would have probably grabbed it. I'm going a little fast. There we go. Just got a trade. Okay, so always look to the left. High, low, higher, high. Everything else is noise in between. That's your identified swing on the left. Now, where's your identified swing on the left now? You got a high, low, higher, high. This is all noise. This is your identified swing. Now, where's your identified swing? Let's look here. You got a high, low, higher, high, so that's identified, right? That's on the left side of the chart. It's all noise until it gets there. What if this takes out this top? This will be your new identified swing, but not yet. And there you just did get stopped out. Now, could you box this in? Anybody? Let's just take it for the fun of it. I'll put a stop right there. We'll just go up to that predictor and see if we can get 10 ticks. That's 14 ticks. Let's go for 10. 11's fine. Stops right under the swing. Now, I'd probably tighten this up because I don't like the way that did just then, because they're trying to check that support, and that's fine with me. But I did go ahead and box it, and I took it. Little fake, but see, I was already up, so I don't worry about it as much if I'm already up. But if that was my first trade of the day and they faked me, I'm out of it in a heartbeat, because I do not want to start out 200 in the hole. Okay? And I think I'm out of data. It's paused. Okay? Everybody? We're going to do this again tomorrow, and keep in mind that these trade calls that were called, not this one, you know, we closed the room right here. But if you actually get in the habit, this trade was called, let's kill that. This trade was boxed in right here, remember? Oh, this is the one I was wanting to show you, and then we're going to wrap. Why did this one get called long in the room, anybody? You had a low, you had almost the same low, just a little lower. So when it took out this mid-band, was this the type of trade that we just looked at that went crazy? So if you take it, and let's say you take this little trade, when it breaks that resistance right there, and it goes up, and it goes up, and it comes right back in your box, you got to get out. See that box? So that trade would not have cost you if you just simply got the trade and then put your stop literally back inside the box. It might have cost you 50 bucks, but I doubt it. But then we actually drew the box in the room, and we had a swing right under here, and if it broke that, short the silly thing. And we nailed that short right there too. Remember? I think I got, if I remember right, I got 62.10. I'd have to look at my deal, but I saw it breaking, and I just decided to short it, because it was obviously not trying to head up like this one was. But do you see any difference in the trades though? That was still that same box, just under mid-band. This one's just under mid-band right here. See that box? What if you would have boxed this one here like so, and it didn't just go up a few ticks and then come back in your face? It just took off like a bullet. Okay, so I'll always take the heat on it. If I called a trade wrong, you know, but I get out on a scratch, I still consider that not a loser, because it's not a winner, but it's not a loser. And even if we called it a loser, we still called this trade here, called this trade here, and I'm pretty sure some of our people even took this one here when it did minimum criteria. But if you think about that trade on gold from here all the way down, that was one monster trade. Okay. So we'll do this in the morning. Keep in mind that even on gold right now, watch gold a little bit more though. Phantoms don't work as well on gold as they do on oil. Let's see, Gerard, on your question, imported the ninja script in the zip file today, and Linda sent an email saying, I see you've imported the object trader alerts. File in the zip is named. Are you talking about Ninja 8? Oh, okay. I can help you after the trading room tomorrow, not a problem. All right, thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed this. And probably if you had some data on your chart, I'll bet you if you box this in right here even, that more than likely you got a little trade. Looking to the left to trade the right, I would probably think it would at least go to that area there or this area here. And if anybody's got charts, let me know if it did that, because I'll bet it did. Right across there. All right, we'll see everybody in the morning. Thanks very much for coming. By the way, Charles's webinar is up on the website for members, and it's also on the webinar link too. Okay, did I miss any questions at all? Oh, David, you did ask a question. I apologize. If anybody wants to leave, they can. Let me show David real quick what he asked about. David's talking about the flashing alerts. David, what we did is we actually designed a new indicator several months ago that's called Object Trader Alert. Okay, and the Object Trader Alert will actually flash when you turn it on. You know, for instance, let's turn on the mid-band short, and you'll see these bars flash right through here. Probably won't because I'm going too far back. Yeah. Let me beef it up a little bit. Just a second. That's 480 minutes. I'll put it on 10,000. It'll definitely flash on 100,000. That's a lot. Let's put it on 10,000 minutes and it'll flash them. Let it go ahead and load. And let's go ahead and put on mid-band short, and you'll see those flash. See those right there? That's a mid-band type trade. Now this one didn't quite get to a phantom, okay? But notice that this is flashing underneath mid-band, so that's kind of telling you to watch for it to start. If it gets lower highs and starts going the other direction, that's why we boxed this in the room this morning. Even though we took this trade long right here, not this one, but this one, we boxed this again. So if somebody shorted that, and also keep in mind when you get a thrust, retrace thrust, you can also draw a trend line underneath your lows too, and you could have gotten short on that bar right there. Okay. There are trades all over the place, but these flashing bars are really cool, David, because when you turn them on, see, they'll flash in these mid-band areas. And what if you were looking at a phantom trade? Let's look at the phantom on, well, here's one on gold even. Like I say, I don't like them as well on gold, but this would flash right here on phantom trade. Little green bars, see them? But notice that that one never really triggered unless you bought line 1. And if you bought line 1 and it went up above line 2 and then came back below line 2 and stopped you out at break even, you get out of the trade. And then it actually changed trends. But those little flashers are pretty good. I like them also. Let me show you one other thing and then we're going to wrap. I like them also because you can get out of a trade when they quit stair-stepping down, to give an example. Look at your minor trade short. All right, look at these little black bars flashing. See here, see here, see here, 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 there. And when they take out these little black bars, I usually go for the second one back unless it's way back. And then as a rule, instead of that, I'll go for the swings. But keep in mind, if you even took this one, let's say you took it off and you went back in where we called it, you could have gotten in there too. But let me show you the little black bar again. Watch them flash. Flashing. 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 And as these head down, these little black bars will keep flashing if there's what's called a lightning swing. And this didn't even do a one range lightning swing. So you don't put your stop way up here, but they're really good when you just watch stair stepping down and then they start stair step back up. They're not going down anymore. That's called your minor trade long. I use this one on a one range bar. So it's literally looking at a little zigzag on a one range. Tiny, tiny zigzags. Okay. And you can also get into them on trades with them too. Like for instance, if you turned on the minor long instead, you'll notice that your white one started stair stepping up right there. So when they broke that swing, that was actually heading up. See these white ones heading up, heading up, heading up, heading up, 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 still holding, up, up, takes it out, you get out of the trade, and it looks like it took it out. Not quite. Right across there. Still in. White bar, stop could be right under there, and it took you. So those can be good little bars for that too. Well, CL a Phantom at 115 at 57.25 short. BB's asking 115. So basically, you're saying CL. 1 second. And by the way, anybody that doesn't have time for this, you're welcome. I'm still recording this, by the way. But you don't have to stick around for a long. All right, so 13.15. Yes, that is definitely a Phantom short. Absolutely. You went from long to short to Phantom. And the way you do Phantom is you try to get as close to line 7 as you can, literally on that bar, and then you just ride the runner. So they are definitely a good Phantom short. Okay, does that mean you couldn't have boxed it here? Just like we talked about, see the thrust, retrace thrust, starting to take out the highs. Could you box that right across there and take a long? Absolutely. What if you took it and it come back in the box, you get out and you go in again? Could you take 10 ticks, goes back in the box, take 10 more ticks? See what I mean? It really makes it pretty easy. But keep in mind that, when things are really going sideways like this morning, even for a little bit, even though that was mind numbing for 30 minutes, we nailed that trade too. So it didn't matter that this was a good short down to Phantom and that was a good Phantom to the long side. Okay. But you don't have to trust it right off. Wait for it to start getting those higher lows. And it did do that. So when it started taking out this swing and this swing, it was going up. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, remember these trades were called in the room. This is an after the fact chart now, but it wasn't an after the fact chart then, because we nailed that trade beautifully right up to 34. All right. Thanks. We'll see you in the morning. Good night, everyone.